Okay. Okay. So, how has being the daughter of the owners of the Russian Tea Room made it easier to run a business?
Well, how has it made it easier that my family? Well, first, I guess I should say my father came back from World War II, Sidney Kaye, and bought into the Russian Tea Room in 1947. He was actually in a really interesting group of men that went around buying up bankrupt restaurants. And so there was I think a series of restaurants, and that was one. The Tea Room was one of them. And then he bought all of his partners out, except for I think one, Mr. Paul Halpern, who was very nice. And then over time he bought the restaurant, the building itself. And in the midst of all of that, he met my mother, and they fell in love. And so he owned and ran the restaurant from 47 to 67, my mother joining him like in the early to mid 50s, or early 50s, I think. And then when he passed away in 67, my mom ran the restaurant until 96, when she sold it to the Leroy family. So they owned it for 49 years. And what makes it easier for me, I would say the biggest thing is that I knew it was a very tough business, and very, very tough. The Tea Room was very, very in my childhood, it was a real struggle. And even though and the thing is, the Tea Room had existed prior to our owning it for at least 20 to 30 years. So it already had a name and everything. It's very hard to do things from scratch. So I knew that it was just going to. If the Tea Room was going through the kind of struggles it was going through when I was a little girl, my dad had already owned it when I was born for I don't know, whatever it was, 12 years or something. So and it was hard. I mean, we'd sit down. Most of the time, he was at the restaurant, and actually my mother was too, and we lived across the street, and he would get out on the terrace and count the people going in and out, and there was a lot of angst about that, like, how many people are going in, if he wasn't there, are the lights on, what's going on over there? We're a block away, but we might as well have been 1,000 miles away. And then just how many people came for dinner, and it was just this whole, always this, our mood of the family was determined by how many people had actually come in, so how many covers we did. So, if it was a busy day, everybody was happy, and if it was slow, everybody was miserable. So I grew up with those kind of storm clouds and sunshine, and, all the time. I mean, every single day, it never was different. Even years later, when my mom, the place was, my father stabilized it, and by the time he passed away, it was in decent shape. But then my mother took it to a whole nother level. But even then, even in its its most stable, really, really successful stretch, every day was fraught. From if when they were doing the construction next door to Carnegie Hall, and the wrecking ball was hit and blow. I mean, just crazy things. And then all the vagaries of, utilities working, not working. The Cold War had an impact because we were a Russian restaurant. If something happened with the Soviet Union, so there's just so many different things that can go awry. So I think it prepared me for that. And I think other people